welcome back to some more Hearthstone card reveals. This time it is just Rogue, but this is important because I mentioned on the previous video when we did Paladin, Paladin's tourist class is Rogue. So we're kind of doing some reveals here again on the Paladin side of things and on the Rogue side of things as well. And not only that, Rogue cards, their tourist destination is Warlock. Now, we've not strictly speaking seen any of the Warlock cards. One was leaked, which I will mention later on. But again, you're going to have to take some of these things with a slight pinch of salt because who knows what Warlock cards you could add to your Rogue decks. We've also seen one other card. We saw Petty Theft. I was wondering how this would integrate into the whole package. I did say at one point, Burgle Rogue, this won't be a thing. The Contraband Rogue won't be a thing. Spoilers, I think the Mad Lads have done it. I think it is going to be a thing this time. Anyway, Petty Theft was a 2-mana spell that gave you 2 random 1-cost spells from other classes. The usual Burgle thing for Rogue, cards from other classes that do other things. Alright, so why do I think that suddenly Burgle Rogue will be a thing? Well, I didn't expect this card. Maestra, the Mask Merchant. 6-mana, 6/5 legendary tourist mean for Rogue. They tourist in Warlock land. Battlecry, discover a hero card from the past, and it has to be from another class. This is actually bonkers. This is so strong as a card. Now, classically, you know, there are minions in the game. There are weapons, spells, locations now, yada yada yada. The strongest of those class of cards has pretty much historically always been hero cards. I think they came in with Knight of the Frozen Throne Light, or not March of the Lich King. It was the first stuff where it was, you know, the Death Knight hero powers, and they kind of just warped the meta around these cards because they were so strong. Now, time has moved on since then, but still, the hero cards themselves warp the game state more so than almost any other card in the game, maybe with the exception of quests. And this is important for another reason. One thing that would be really nice to do in your contraband deck is to get infinite test Greymane value. Now, the normal way of doing this is to generate Shadow Steps or to have Shadow Steps in your deck, Breakdances, have Breakdances in your deck, yada yada yada. However, if you could change your class into not Rogue, then suddenly when you play a Rogue card, it is a card from another class, which means if you can change your class into anything that is not Rogue, and Maestro guarantees this because it has to be from another class, also means it can't be a neutral. It means if you play Bounce Around after Tess, Tess will always cast Bounce Around featuring Garone from the future, and Tess will always bounce back to your hand as long as Tess doesn't die in the process of playing the Tess. AKA, if Tess dies before bounce goes off, then you'll break the combo. But potentially this is infinite Tess value. Okay, we need to look at the hero cards from the past, which, by the way, other than about hero cards, it's a pretty small pool of cards. You have your cards that are just generally good. Malfurion the Pestilent, one of the old Death Knights for the Druid side of things. That's pretty solid value, right? You get some minions, either the Poisonous Spiders or the Scarabs with Taunt. I think there were 2 4s, right, with Taunt. I don't remember exactly. And then your button becomes like a Super Druid button. You get 3 attack, 3 armor. Okay, that's pretty good. What about if you get Guff, though? Guff, when it was a thing, was honestly fairly consistently meta the entire time. And even in Wild now, Wild Heart Guff is causing issues in Wild. Hey, how about a class that can generate tons of cards, tons of value, has 20 mana instead of 10? That seems pretty good, right? So don't be surprised to see your Rogue becoming a Wild Heart Guff. Even stuff like Frostlich Jaina, something that generates like potentially infinite value, so to speak, pretty good. Dr. Boo Mad Genius similarly could generate infinite mechs eventually. Rexar, infinite zombies. Galakron the Unspeakable even generates you infinite priest minions, and the priest minions, I think, could just be Titans and stuff, right? I think you could generate a Titan from that pool. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. I'm not entirely certain how the priest minion pool works. But either way, it is infinite value for your Rogue deck. Oh, I'm not done, by the way. And I've not even got to the best ones, I think. Dreadlich Tamsin could be nice in Rogue, gets you to ability to draw multiple cards. It is also like a Control E hero power because it does 3 damage to all minions. So if you're going to a matchup potentially where, it's a tokeny type of deck, maybe you try and generate a Dreadlich Tamsin so you can play Tamsin to do do a board clear. You could get Zul'jin, and Zul'jin kind of does the same thing as Tess. You're just casting all spells, but not from other classes. It's literally just every single spell goes off again, and Zul'jin will probably generate you a full hand that you just can't possibly play, but it's going to be so much value, and turns your button into something that leads to inevitability. You basically become a hunter, right? But unlike hunter, you can also target minions with your button. The two that are really, really scary, though, in my opinion, are Shadow Reaper Anduin and Uther of the Ebon Blade. Now, Anduin, his button refreshes after you play a card. Who is really good at playing lots of cheap cards? It's Rogue! So Void Form on Rogue could legitimately just be a win condition. Uther of the Ebon Blade, if you can get the 4 horsemen out of the button, i.e. keep pushing the button, you just win the game. It gives you an alternate win condition. You also get a 5/3 lifesteal weapon, which is really nice for a rogue. They don't have access to a lot of good healing abilities, and it's also a pretty good threat. So, yeah. All in all, I think I've counted there are 27 hero cards from the past that will be available in this pool. And in my opinion, all of them are very usable. I'd probably say the 3 of the weaker ones are Scour, Scourge Garrosh, Thrall Deathseer, and the amazing Reno. Starscourge, Starscourge, why am I calling Starscourge? I'm playing Elden Ring in my head. Scourge Lord Garrosh, his button becomes 1 damage to all minions, which isn't particularly good, probably for a rogue deck. And Thralls, you're probably not wanting to evolve many of your cards, and Thrall wants you to generate these big boards of minions to evolve them, so I think those 2 are pretty weak. The amazing Reno potentially could be fine for you, but you know he's going to cast Wheel of Death at some point, and you're just going to lose because of it, so I'd be very careful about picking Reno. The 4th one that could also be pretty weak is Xyrella, because there's not many Death Rattles that are roaming around Rogue in the current standard set. The button's pretty nice though for Xyrella, 5 damage or 5 healing, it flips each turn. One thing I will say though, and this is like the only link I can give to Warlock right now, we are aware of this elite card from Warlock, which is Felfire Bonfire, that seems to have a Death Rattle synergy. So perhaps you might want to put some Death Rattle minions, which I assume are going to exist in the Warlock package, into your Contraband Burgle Rogue deck, just on the off chance you get Xyrella. You might be able to get an insane Death Rattle from that. We don't know what they are yet, maybe it won't be good, but it could be a thing. And at the very least, even with Xyrella, you're probably putting Drilly the Kid in your deck somewhere. You're probably running the mining package, and that will at least excavate you a treasure, and the button's not too bad. But yeah, just a bonkers card. Changing your class means that all your rogue cards become other class cards, and that is pretty powerful. Okay, the other legendary from Rogue, Treasure Hunter Eudora, a 6-mana 4/5 pirate. Battlecry, go on a side quest to discover amazing loot. Play 3 cards from other classes to complete it. This is the side quest is a 1-mana side quest, and you have to play 3 cards from other classes, and you get to discover 2 pieces of amazing loot. What are amazing loot, you may ask? Loot are the 28 Jewels treasures, I know. And all of that to Jewels. Sorry, I don't know how to do that. You may have noticed I did it all wrong. But yeah, rest in peace, Jewels. But you're slowly coming back out of the ashes again. You can discover 2 Jewels treasures. Jewels treasures, pretty strong. Now, I haven't got all 28 on here. I've given you a smorgasbord example of them, though. You can get stuff like the Exercise, where you attack a minion, you silence it. That's not bad, not great. What about Krusty, though? You just destroy a minion and get its attack and health for 3 mana. That's pretty good, right? How about in Rogue, where you cast umpteen million spells, especially if you're a mining Rogue deck? Getting a Clockwork Assistant, that's probably going to be a 3 mana, 15/15, maybe more even. That's pretty good. 8 damage to the enemy hero and freeze it. Yeah, Rogue probably would enjoy to do something like that. 8 mana to silence destroy a minion and get a 10/10 copy of it. There are some very, very strong minions in Hearthstone right now. I'm sure Rogue could find in certain matchups one to get. And by the way, you get to discover these, so Holy Book might be good in certain interactions, not so good into other ones, and you get to pick and choose which weapons you want. Similarly, one of Disintegration, maybe you go up against this aggro-y, tokeny deck, or you go up against like the hand buff Paladin decks to get a board at some point, and you just want to disintegrate them and just obliterate them. You know, the treasures, they're really, really, really good. So I think this is a very solid card, and again, just reinforces this burgle archetype and gives you a reason to want to burgle cards. I will also point out, and I think this is a bit of a pipe dream, if you play Treasure Hunter Eudora and don't play the side quests immediately, and then you have Maestro change you into one of the other classes, then in theory, after that point, if you play the side quest and then you complete it, and then you play Tess Tess will cast the Treasure Hunt, I believe, because it is a rogue spell, and strictly speaking, it will be from another class. So I think that could lead to a potential situation where you get infinite Eudora's treasures, infinite Tesses if you're using Bounce Back as well, and could lead to chaos. Just sheer unadulterated chaos. So yeah, that's going to be really, really interesting to see how this all works together. Is there any other support, though? Before I get to sort of the other support, there is spoilers. I'm a little bit disappointed in some regards, because I don't think the Paladin Taurus can really abuse a lot of these rogue cards. I don't think they were really thought of with Paladin in mind. Obviously, Linessa doesn't really synergize with the Eudora. I think the side quest, if you try to go off twice, doesn't for side quests, right? They're not like auras. I think it still only goes off once. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I know auras were changed, but I don't know if quests were changed as well. Or more specifically, I don't know if side quests were changed. Anyway, so I don't think you would get that as a duplicate. So really, why would you be playing this as the Paladin? And it's really hard for Paladin to like justify putting into these burgle cards, because Paladin can't really generate cards from other classes very easily. In fact, the only really reliable way of doing it is with Petty Theft. So I guess this is the combo that you use Linessa with Petty Theft, which will give you 4 one-cost spells from other classes, which makes completing the Treasure Hunter quest very easy. It does require this 2 combo, and it does also mean you can't change your hero power, because I don't know if you're aware of this, I can't remember if I mentioned it. Tourists can't put Tourists in their deck, so you can't go through the infinite loop where you can put every single card in your deck. That doesn't work, so you can't put the rogue card as a Taurus of a Warlock into your Paladin Taurus to Rogue deck. I think you understand what I mean. So you wouldn't be able to change your hero class, which I think is going to be pretty powerful for this burgle deck. Anyway, basically it's just Petty Theft. There are other options, there are neutral cards that have a pretty good chance of generating cards from other classes. Flint, for example, a reasonable chance you're going to get a quick draw card from another class. It's not guaranteed, of course. And obviously, if you do play that one quick draw card, maybe you can draw another one that would then go off. And maybe that would even go off twice with Linessa. Similarly, Hipster, if you're not playing against a fellow Paladin, then that will generate you a card from another class. So it's not impossible, but I don't think this burgle package will gel into the Paladin package. Though I do think there is one card, and we'll get to that later. Okay, let's look for more support for the burgle package. 4-mana 4/4 Pirate. Conniving Conman. Battlecry, replay the last card played from another class. This is really good. This is kind of like Contraband Stash. That's in Wild right now. And Contraband Stash was essential to the old burgle deck. It gave you multiple ways of, like, basically playing your test turn. Now, the problem with Contraband Stash was that you got 5 cards, which is, very good for 5 mana. But sometimes you get situations where a card gets stuck in your hand. Like, there's some spells you don't want to play in this archetype, especially anything that removes the board, because it means your test will die during playing your contraband turns. Similarly, there are some other cards, like maybe like drawing cards you want to be very careful of in the contraband deck, because you're typically a pretty value full deck, so you don't want any more cards that add cards to your hand, because your hand will just simply get overfull. Conniving Common doesn't have that worry. Instead of having the additional 4 cards, so to speak, you get the 4-mana 4/4 body. That's understated for 4 mana, I appreciate it. But you do get to target the card you've last played from another class and get that only card to go off again. And honestly, most times when you play Contraband Stash, you would sometimes get like 2 or 3 good hits. A lot of the time, though, 2 of them were pretty bad hits. So I actually think this Conniving Conman is pretty good. I think you could justify running it in the burgle deck. I also think it might not make the burgle deck. I will forewarn you on that. I think it's a pretty solid card, though. Just as a reminder as well, when it says replay, you won't get the battle cries on these cards either, because battle cries only initiate when they come from hand. Conniving Conman's replay effect won't be from hand, so you will just get the pure minion. It's a bit like Murazond, I believe. By the way, they do still have some more support. We have the Seashell, 3-mana 3/2 Pirate. A lot of pirates this set again, I've mentioned this before. Battlecry, the next card you play from a non-rogue class costs 2 less. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, we have Swiftscale's Trickster sort of back again. I think Swiftscale's Trickster was better. I will say, Swiftscale's Trickster costs 1 more mana. It did discount the card to 0, so you could potentially get more bang for your buck. It's not just 2 less, you could get like 7 mana discounts. But it only worked on spells, whereas Seashell also works on, well, any card, right? It would work on weapons, it would work on locations, it would work on heroes. So I actually think this is a pretty okay card. Again, I'm not sure it will see play in this potential excavate infinite value deck. I'm not quite certain. Like, this list is going to be pretty difficult to contain all the value into, in my opinion. But maybe it sneaks into there. One of the nice cards potentially that you could use with Seashell is something like Stick Up, and that does see some play in the burgle packages currently. You play your Seashell. Oh, and one of the other things that's nice about Seashell, by the way, Swift Scale Trickster was on that turn. Seashell, you can do it on a later turn, so you could play this out on turn 3. Turn 4, you play Stick Up, and then you'll get a Quick Draw card from another class. You want to play it on that turn, because Quick Draw gets the benefit of immediately playing it. And having it cost 2 mana less makes it more likely that you're able to play it on that turn. So I think that's a pretty nice combo wombo. But in general, you're just going to be playing with some sort of card that you get from another class, and you're probably going to be happy for the 2 mana discount just to get the card out of your hand again. And also, it's going to make completing these quests a lot more easy. So don't be surprised to see Seashell in this burgle package either. And by the way, there is another payoff for all of this. 8 mana Snatch and Grab spell. Destroy 2 random enemy minions. It costs 1 less for each card you've played from another class. Wow, this is actually really, really solid. It's basically 2 deadly shots bundled together. Whenever you bundle cards together, you normally improve the quality of the card. So, although this, in theory would be 6 mana, you could argue it's more like a 6.5 mana card, which actually means with Snatch and Grab, if you played 2 cards from other classes, I would kind of argue you've broke even on the effect. So anything beyond that is gravy. Now, Excavate Rogue generates a lot of 1-cost random spells, often from other classes. They are going to be able to get Snatch and Grab cheap very easily. This will be... honestly, they're going to play this as 0 mana more often than not, in my opinion. And it's a really good card to fight back on the board state. Rogue really struggled to do that, especially with AoE damage. This isn't AoE damage, to be fair, but it is not quite just, destroy a single minion. It is 2 minions, so it's a bit wider than normal for the Rogue. So I definitely think this will see play in not only the Excavate deck, but this Burgle Excavate package, which I think will all go together. I don't know how it's going to do it, but boy, God, I'm going to try and fit them all together. Alright, now we get to some other cards. We have Knick-Knack Shack. 3 mana location with 4 durability. A lot of durability for a location. Draw a card. If you play it this turn, reopen this. This is an incredibly good effect. I want the record to be known. I think this is a very good card. However, I'm not sure it's going to see any play because I don't know what the deck is you would play this around. In the recent past, we had Miracle Rogue as an archetype, and you had multiple win conditions for playing multiple cards in a turn. And this Knick-Knack Shack would have 100% seen play in a Miracle Rogue deck. We don't really have that anymore, right? There's not really a great payoff for the Miracle Rogue players. It's probably something that overlaps with the Cycle Rogue deck. So maybe Cycle Rogue would try and play something like Knick-Knack Shack. Sometimes, though, you're going to get a really bad draw off the Shack. You'll get one of the Giants where they're not quite discounted enough yet to play them instantly. But I can definitely see a world where you would just play your Cycle deck, you get your Knick-Knack Shack, you maybe cycle your hand 1 time, and then the Shack just goes crazy, and you're just playing card after card after card. It legitimately in Rogue has the potential to draw you 4 cards on a turn for 3 mana. And that is really, really good for 3 mana drawing 4 cards. So I think it's more of a card though that is watch this space. I don't know if it's going to immediately fly out there and, break alight the Hearthstone meta, but there's definitely room for 1 or 2 key cards to come out that then make this card insane. And actually, spoilers, one of them might be a Paladin deck, so bear in mind this location could go into a Paladin deck. Paladin could play a low-cost aggro deck. I don't think this would see play in that still. I think it's a little bit too slow for that, to be honest with you, but again, Paladin lovers, maybe you want some additional draw, maybe you have a low-curve deck, and you just slot this into the deck as your deck into your mid-rangey aggro type deck. Maybe that will work. We also have Swarthy Swordshiner. Hey, it's a pirate again. 3 mana, 3/3 pirate. Battlecry, set the attack and durability of your weapon to 3. Rogue is eating good today. Really, really, really good card. And it curves so nicely into something like Quick Pick. You play Quick Pick on 2, you swing 1 time, your weapon is a 1/1 at that point, you've drawn a card. You play Swarthy Swordshiner on the turn afterwards. Hey, it's a 3/3 again. You've basically paired off that swing, given it another 2 attack, and that's going to draw you 3 more cards. In total, it's like a how much damage you're doing? You're doing 10 damage for 5 mana, drawing 4 cards, and you get a 3/3 on top of it. That's really, really good. So, Swarthy Swordshiner, I think, could see play in multiple different rogue decks. Again, I don't know if this Miracle deck is quite there yet, but the backbone of it, the foundations of it are there. It's just, is the payoff there for it? Also, and where I think this might actually see play, what if you put this in Paladin? You swing with your Painter's Virtue 2 times, you play your Swarthy Swordshiner, and suddenly, Painter's Virtue is a 3/3 weapon that can swing 3 more times. That is frightening. Now, I will say, this does mean you have to put Linessa into your Hand Buff Paladin deck. Hand Buff Paladin doesn't run spells normally, or it runs one specifically, Mining Casualty, which actually Linessa would duplicate. Is it worth running one dud card in your deck to put a Swarthy Swordshiner in it to get more Painter's Virtue charges? I actually don't know. I've not played the deck enough. In my brain, though, like, I'm saying, yes, it's worth playing it, because then your charge minion gets plus 3 more attack. Yes. So actually, I do think there might be a world where this is a minion good enough that Paladin would use the location to put this minion in it, even though the minion doesn't really integrate with the Taurus at all. It's just a very, very good card. So watch your space on Swarthy Swordshiner. There is another weapon release as well with Rogue, which, again, you might want to give it a sword shining, even though it's a metal detector. 3 mana 2/2 weapon. After your hero kills and attacks a minion, you get a coin. There is a mini archetype in the set of generating coins, which is a mechanic rogues like to do. Again, like we said before, you could play your metal detector, swing 1 turn, play your Swarthy, that gives you 2 more swings, also gives you 1 additional attack. And potentially you could generate from this instead 4 coins. It does rely on you attacking and killing minions. It's also pretty dangerous for rogues to do this because rogues can't normally recover health that easily. There are ways, aka Ziliacs, but generally it's something a bit tricky to do. But generating coins is very good for something like Wishing Well to generate lots of random legendaries, by the way, from other classes. So if you want to generate cards from other classes, not via the Excavate route, you could try and do it by the Wishing Well route instead. Like, so many packages for Rogue that are really solid right now. Like, it's going to be a very hard deck to build, because I can't hold all of these good cards. We also have this card, Oh Manager, which I think is like, Oh Manager, if I remember the voice line. It's something along those lines. You may be able to tell, not a voice actor, yet. 2 mana spell, deal 2 damage, combo, get a coin. This spell potentially is going to be insane. Now, on the base of it, this kind of explains something as well, like Petty Theft generating low-cost spells, because the low-cost spells are nice to make the combo go off. And again, getting coins is very nice for your Wishing Well. However, this card, I think, is going to see a home in Paladin. I've mentioned it multiple times. Paladin has got this backbone right now, where they could build a spell damage machine gun deck to the face. And I keep saying they're missing like 1 or 2 cards, and then this will be a thing. Hey, look, this is a card that could go into a Paladin deck. If you put your Taurus in there, they can get a cheap spell that goes to the face. Here is the combo. You get 2 O Managers. You get a Sun Sapper Linessa. You play Sun Sapper Linessa. You play O Manager. O Manager will go off 2 times. That is 4 damage to the face. And you get 2 coins, which means the O Manager was 0 mana, 4 damage. You play the other O Manager for the same reason. You played both the coins. So you've paid 5 mana to deal 8 damage. Then you throw out a Hammer of Wrath. That's currently the best way I can think of doing this. Again, send it to the face. And after that, that means you played a Holy Spell this turn. Your Holy Glow Sticks cost 1, and they will be duplicated by Sun Sapper Linessa. All in all, this combo works out as 27 damage, which isn't lethal, and any OTK deck that doesn't give you lethal immediately normally isn't very strong. However, there are ways to make this an OTK deck. If on the previous turn, or an earlier turn, you've played Holy Cowboy, your Hammer of Wrath will be 1, which means if you play Linessa, the 2 O Managers, then you play Hammer of Wrath, it will go off 2 times, draw you 2 cards, and deal 6 damage, which then makes this a 30-card combo. We've also seen in all of this that Service Ace is another way to discount cards in Paladin, and maybe this is what you do, you just have this combo cards like lined up, and you just keep buffing the Service Ace, and eventually, it gets the Linessa cheaper. It might get the Holy Glow Sticks cheaper. It might get the Wrath cheaper eventually. I think it's more likely you will do it with the Holy Cowboy. But either way, you might even just have a weapon preloaded on there for the additional 3 damage. This may just be a finisher, not an OTK deck. But I can 100% see you playing the Sun Temple Linessa only to put O Manager into the deck. It's literally 0 mana, deal 4 damage. That's incredible, right? And if that's not the case, you can even save the coins to do up some other big combo. I don't know. Anyway, that is it for the Rogue reveals. Now, again, we have to take some of this with a pinch of salt because we haven't seen the Warlock cards. We can't see what cards that Rogue might want to put into their deck from Warlock, other than the one leaked one, which actually I don't think would see play in that deck. I think it's 3 more days now till Warlock is revealed, so we have to just sit here excitedly waiting for more reveals. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, why not leave a like and subscribe? Everyone helps me out, and I'll see you again next time. Bye!